Okay. We are live again on Twitch. Welcome back, S Rank Podcast, episode 15. Let me actually pause this music.
Wait, can 15 go into 100? No, right?
No, not a chance. If it did, I'd end it all right now. If we found out that was possible, I'd end it all on live on Twitch in Minecraft.
Some like conspiracy TikTok you'd see where it's like big math doesn't want you to know that 15 evenly divides into 100.
Yeah, there's a couple of numbers that you find out late in life where it's like, okay, that's kind of fucked up.
Well, like just their purpose, how they divide into things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what prime numbers? What's going on with those?
I could not even tell you the definition at this point in my life.
Honestly, I'm not sure either. I've solved a couple algorithms coding wise to try and do prime numbers. Fibonacci sequence.
Fibonacci. I saw an insane TikTok of Neil deGrasse Tyson the other day, and he was saying that we know the number of ways you can shuffle a deck of cards. It's 52 factorial. It's like 52 Fibonacci sequence.
Okay.
And so it's 52 times 51 times 50. It's 52 times 51 times 50 times 49 all the way down to 0 or down to 1. And it ends up being some like gargantuan quintillion million. Yeah. Like some insane, like, 18th factorial, some insane number. And he goes to this whole thing where like the mathematical chances of this one specific thing occurring around a deck of cards. And it's like, if we like took every star ever, like the infinite amounts of trillions of stars, put those like in the multiverse of like trillions of multiverses, and then blah, 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 like all these infinite amounts of numbers on top of each other, and then you'd only have a 40% chance of a deck of cards being shuffled the same way ever, randomly.
Wow.
So like he's saying that we can feel very confident in saying that a deck of cards has never, ever, ever been shuffled the same way twice.
Wow. That is
Isn't that
kind of
insane?
a concept. Yeah.
It's nuts.
Are we talking shuffling like where you do the cool thing where you like take both?
Yeah, just like a fair shuffle. Just like a fair shuffle. Like it's got to be like a random like fair shuffle. Yeah.
The old cut.
Yeah. But it's the chances of any deck of cards having been shuffled the same way more than once versus any other deck of cards is insane. It's nuts.
That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
The amount of ways you could shuffle the deck is also the amount of planets that are in Starfield.
In Starfield. Oh yeah, happy Starfield Week 2.
Yeah,
it's officially
This is Starfield
release
weekend.
Starfield Weekend 2. Last week it was Starfield Weekend 1. Yeah. Because if you subscribe to Game Pass, you get all the games day 1 release, but not early access, which is maybe the actual day 1. So
more and more companies, man, it's $100 to play it on the actual release date. This is how they're doing it. They're sneaking it in. Games are still $60 to $70, but
yeah,
the real release date, pay $100.
And they did do like you can upgrade from the Game Pass version. I think it was like $30, which is better, but it's still it's crazy, man. And more you're right, more and more companies are doing it. Did Diablo do it? I don't even know if Diablo. Yeah, they did. Diablo had early access.
They did, yeah. I think
Diablo and Call of Duty. Call of Duty last year. Which like makes more sense to me than Starfield. Like it's weird to me that a single player offline game has early access. It's just
I know. The concept is getting so blurred. I guess like for them, I mean, why does any corporation do anything? It's to make money, but for them it might be like, well, this game costs like a lot of money to make. We might not get as many direct sales based on it being on Game Pass, so like throw in the option to play early because we know, those nerds will pay it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so silly. It's like they can say whatever they want numbers wise, but at the end of the day, you're double dipping on people.
Yeah, you're counting that paper, baby.
Yeah.
That's all about.
all Microsoft or soon to be Microsoft products proudly. Proudly.
I always forget, like when I remember we talk about Starfield and Bethesda, and it's like, oh yeah, Xbox game. I'm like, oh yeah, they did buy Bethesda. I forgot about that. That was so long ago. That's crazy.
They bought Bethesda, man. It's nuts. Yeah. It's wild.
It feels like it's always been part of Microsoft now. It's so funny how your perspective on things changes. Like when a company changes its name and you're like, that sucks. I'm never going to call it that. Like Facebook and Meta. And now it's like, oh.
No, it's Facebook.
Has it always been Meta? Or is it still Facebook? I don't know. It's like messes with your head.
Actually,
man.
Speaking of Bethesda, one like thing that we actually weren't gonna, we didn't even pull this article, but let me pull it up because I just thought of it. Let me share this tab.
I like your hat, by the way.
Thanks, dude. People on the internet love this hat. Like this is
it's
like whenever we post content online, like we've had a fair amount of comments being like, oh my god, Japanese breakfast hats. It's nice to know that there's other fans out there.
Is that what that is? Oh, is it a band?
Yeah, it's a band. Yeah, it's a band.
God, but I thought it was like an actual brand of like Japanese breakfast foods. I was like, nah, that's an obscure.
I wish. But I feel like that's something I could see myself getting into. But this is a interesting article, and I haven't even read it yet, so I don't know what Phil actually said. But from Video Games Chronicle, Xbox boss Phil Spencer addresses potential Elder Scrolls exclusivity. So now he's saying we look at it on a case-by-case basis with the games that we build. Following the week's release of Starfield, Bethesda Games Studios' next game will be a new entry in the long-running fantasy RPG series. Starfield is available for Xbox. Blah blah blah. And even so, it's on some smart TVs. I guess you can do Xbox cloud streaming through some like smart TV apps.
Yeah, that must be what they're referring to.
It's Bethesda's Game Studios' first release since Microsoft acquired its parent company ZeniMax Media in 2001.
2021.
That's not true. Hi-Fi Rush would like a word. Notably, Starfield is not available on PlayStation consoles, which will also be the case for an upcoming Indiana Jones game. In an interview with Bloomberg this week, Xbox boss Phil Spencer was asked whether Elder Scrolls 6 will also be an exclusive and how Microsoft decides whether it's on the right track with this release strategy. Phil said, "We look at it on a case-by-case basis with the games that we build. We want to make sure our games are available to many different places on Xbox consoles, on PC, and also via cloud. These games can come to almost any web-enabled device. We're looking at millions and millions of players who will have access to Starfield and other Xbox Studios games. It's really about giving players choice around how they want to play and build their library games." Dude, Phil should like run for president. He's just so good at like saying the most political coded ways of like saying no.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's like he's got the brand lines, just like he's got components and he slaps them together.
Just not answering the question in any way.
Yeah.
Just not answering the question in any way, but also at the same time saying like, yes, it'll probably be Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, and also pitching like every piece of hardware and software
that they have available. Yeah. Because it's like he's basically here trying to shake off the implication of exclusive being limited by listing off all of the player choice that people will have when it eventually is announced that it will be exclusive.
That's a good point, because it's like I think an argument that so many people make, which is fair, is like, oh well, by nature an exclusive to something is limited, so trying to kind of shift the narrative to be like, no, look, you have even more.
Look at all this choice. Yeah.
Look at all the choice.
Cloud gaming, baby, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
you can play it on your fucking TCL Roku from 2019. 1989. It's funny though, because Starfield does have a very 1989 aesthetic, like a very early computer but in space aesthetic, which is cool.
It's got
like a digipunk or like a.
Excuse me, NASA Punk is
the
term that they're going with. They actually have like some NASA branding.
Did they actually say that? NASA Punk?
NASA Punk, yeah, that's what they're going for.
I don't know how I feel about that.
It's interesting. I have some thoughts on it.
Yeah, we'll dip back into Starfield.
There's plenty of stuff.
In November 2021, Spencer appeared to suggest Elder Scrolls 6 wouldn't be available on PlayStation when he said adopting an exclusivity strategy is not about punishing any other platform. I mean, that's like blatantly false. However, giving evidence in July as part of Microsoft's legal battle with FTC, Spencer was vague about whether he had previously made a public statement saying the game would be Xbox only. With Elder Scrolls 6, it's so far out, it's hard to understand what the platforms will even be. We're talking about a game that's 5+ years away. That's so funny, man. Yeah,
I mean, that is a fair point, because who knows when the hell that game is going to come out.
Well, but it's just funny that they announced it. It's just funny that they announced it how long ago? Like 3 years? 3 years ago?
2018. I think it was even
5 years.
Yeah.
Like,
it was nice to know that it is coming. It is a thing. It will be a thing. As a big Elder Scrolls fan, that made me happy. But it is just very funny that like radio silence, and then finally them being like, okay, now we're starting the game. It's like, okay, cool.
I don't know why it's so strange that Elder Scrolls 6 was announced that early. I don't get it.
I think like I'm trying to remember what the context surrounding it was. I think it was around because they acquired the company in 2021. They might have just needed like
it was like 20
buzz.
Something to say, yeah.
Yeah, something to say, something to get people like tweeting and talking and whatnot. So who knows? Who knows why companies do these things?
Prior to Microsoft completing its ZeniMax acquisition, Starfield director Todd Howard, who is also directing Elder Scrolls 6, it was hard to imagine the latter being released exclusively for Xbox platforms. Yeah, but guess what, Todd? You're not in control anymore, bro.
I mean, it's an interesting point. Like, my assumption would be like, well,
oh my god, they bought out Todd, dude. Todd's paid for. However, in an interview published this week, Howard said Starfield's Xbox console exclusivity resulted in the creation of a better product.
Yeah, I was reading about that. I mean, it's a fair point that the less stuff that you have to build for, like, the more work you can put into those versions. But yeah, it is funny that he's kind of been like, yeah, okay, fine.
He's gone. They got him.
They got Todd. Someone get him out.
They got Todd. This is crazy. I clicked into the next article that links to this, and it says, this is also from Video Game Chronicle. It says Starfield's Xbox exclusivity yielded a better product. Todd Howard says, when you're making something exclusive, then the more you can focus. Okay, that's true, but I don't know if the context was like you're saying, the less things you have to develop for, the more the higher the quality can be, because there's less edge cases. But I wonder if this was almost framed in a way that was like, Xbox is so good.
They've been so good to us, everybody. Phil keeps me in his house. I have my own little bed.
I'm now Todd Spencer, the family pet.
I wonder, because my thought would be like, well, of course they're just blowing smoke up our asses. Of course it'll be exclusive, but I hadn't really considered like Starfield is it's a totally new IP, so that might have been their way of saying like, well, this is an Xbox franchise. Right. But the Elder Scrolls has always been similar to Fallout, always been multi-platform, always been available to so many people. So I don't know, maybe they would be like, all right, like that's the one that we'll get to everybody because we know you all love it, but new IPs will be Xbox only. I wonder, or they'll probably just make it Xbox only, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I'm curious. I'll get it on PC regardless because that's the best way to play these games. But
yeah. But how are you feeling about Starfield so far? So you put in about 25 hours over like what, 4 days? Yeah,
I picked it up on, I guess, Friday. No, it's that yesterday. No, Thursday night.
Okay.
For us, EST. I picked it up. It's funny, man. Like I have mixed feelings on it. Like there's some things that I love, some things I don't love so much. But I initially was thinking like, okay, I'm in the middle of Baldur's Gate 3. Like I don't want to lose focus on that. Like I'll pick up Starfield. I'll mess around a little bit and like,
check it out.
And again, over the past like 3 days, I've put like 25 hours into it. And I can't stop thinking about it, man. Like when I'm not playing it, I'm like, there's just something about that joy of like the freedom and how crisp everything is and feels, and just I want to get back into it and just kind of push a little bit further. But it's also one of those weird things where like they're like set really high highs and then like kind of low lows, where there's some moments where I'm like not having a ton of fun, but then I push forward a little bit and then like the fun and the joy comes back.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, it's a really unique thing. Like it's so ambitious in some ways, but in some other ways, like, is pretty much what everybody expected. You know, it's a Bethesda game in space. But I don't know, like the more I play of it, like the more the hook kind of gets into me. I really like the characters. I'm very interested in the story and where it's going to go. My main issues, I think, come from what I feel like are steps back from previous games, but it also could be personal preference. Like, I love something about Fallout and the Elder Scrolls is just, you know, having one big kind of like nation or area or something, to everything feels interconnected. And this game, I think it's a problem with any space game you make, is that things are going to feel kind of disconnected. And so much of it is like literally just, you know, flying from one place to the next.
Yeah.
And when you're there, when you're like in the thick of some like bespoke content that's been created, it feels, you know, as good as it ever has. But then there's like kind of like the connective tissue feels a little bit like you're kind of jumping between like different games in a way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've really been enjoying it so far. I don't know if I'm going to be like staying hard on it and putting in like 200 hours, but I'm absolutely going to keep going through the main story at the very least, because I really want to see where it goes.
Yeah. I'm also really enjoying it. I think one of the big things for me, and it kind of hit early on, was like one, it's the aesthetic, and just being in space is like very cool, because it does feel like they really nailed the like, oh, you're really like in space as like the player character. The player character to me is way more interesting than something like No Man's Sky, where you're just in space surviving. Like, that's like a little too literal for my taste. I'm not a big survival game guy.
Sorry, so I just heard some thunder upstairs. I don't know if that's coming through the microphone.
No, it didn't, but you looked a little scared.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I got scared for you.
Disappear here. We'll meet back.
Yeah, we'll loop back around. But like yeah, I don't know. No Man's Sky was like a little too boring for me. It was like a little too literal, and I just kept waiting for the game to start, and it just never felt like it did. Yeah. As opposed to something like Starfield, where it's like, okay, yeah, the game, like, it's a little slow in the beginning, but it's like, okay, I feel like it started now. Yeah. And one of the cool things to me that I'm really enjoying, and I'm sure their other games have something similar, but I do like that there is a good amount of player choice and ways to solve quest or solve progress, or like, you know, progress forward. I got a side quest to help somebody like steal basically some ingredient she had bought to make a drink or something, was contraband, and it got confiscated, and she couldn't get it back. So she was like, oh, can you help me get it back? Blah, blah. And there were like multiple ways you could get this ingredient back. One was you could persuade the guy guarding the door. Or what I did was I went to the security office and I went into their locker room and I found a security card, and I could go across the map over to where the contraband, you know, storage was, and just open the door. Yeah, because I had the key card. And it's like that, having those kind of things where you kind of built this world that's so dynamic around just what equipment you have at your disposal, or finding other ways to work around the things you don't have at your disposal, makes it so much more immersive for me as a player, because now I feel like exploring actually has a sense of value and sense of reward in terms of like progression. It makes me want to, you know, what are the benefits of joining the security ranks, or, you know, the pirates or whatever, you know, it's what rewards you get for doing those things. I found like secret outpost, and I got rewarded with like a legendary set of gear and a ship. Like, sick. That kind of stuff, like, you know, like just because I picked up a little piece of paper off a dead enemy and it gave me like coordinates. Those kind of things go a long way for me in terms of achieving this, like, you are a player character in space, go find what's in space. And those things to me, like, I could get lost in that for hours, and I already have.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit worried. The only things that worry me about the game, I'm a little bit worried that I could see that shine, you know, wearing off around like 40 hours, you know, 40, 50 hours, and just being like, well, the exploring is cool, but there's not that, like, the differentials in the exploring isn't there. There's not that much. So I could see myself getting a little bored, but I'm hoping, like, so far the main quest has been interesting enough for me to want to keep going through it. So I feel like even if I just do the main story quest and like just the quest in general, the side quest, that will probably be enough for me to carry me through this with interest and like enjoyment.
Yeah, I think they do something with their formula, for lack of a better way of putting it, in their games, where there's kind of like different things for everybody, and sometimes spreading it so wide can make it feel shallow in some places. But like some people just get their games, play through the main story, and put it down, and they're like, cool, I had a fun time with that. But there's also like I think the core things are like main story, and then there's always like faction storylines. And in this, you've got like the Free Star Republic, United Colonies, like the Vanguard, different things like
the
that.
Rangers.
So the Rangers, yes, excuse me.
Broside Republic. I need a new host.
Fake Starfield fan. But like, you can mainline the main story, or, finish it. And then, well, apparently there's a new game plus, which I'm interested in, or you can dip your toes into these things. Like each one is kind of its own like full storyline, and you have the choice, whether you want to pursue those or not. You can do them at the same time as the main story, or then go back and do them later, or you can just be like, I don't care about any of that. I'm just gonna go randomly explore planets and do the little side things, or build outposts or something like that. So
right,
it's always cool to kind of have a choice over that. The question is like, does any individual one stand well enough on its own compared to a game that only focused on one?
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see, because like I haven't gone for any of the faction stuff yet, because I feel like I needed to learn more about it. But the more I've played, and like the more I really dig the world building. I think that
it's really good so far.
The more I learn about something that
did you do like that little chunk where you take like an exam?
No, not yet.
Okay, there's like a whole thing where you go through like a museum and you're taking an exam, but you learn like so much about Earth, like during our time, the lead up through how they ended up colonizing space. And it's just like really interesting, because it almost feels like they took a lot of inspiration from Dune, like different houses and blah blah, and like how they historically like weave their way through kind of like post our time Earth. And so it's cool. Like there was clearly a lot of thought into that. What you're saying, that world building is clearly very thought out.
Yeah, something that is, at first I actually didn't like it, but the more I've played, the more I've really grown to like it, is their specific, like the whole NASA punk aesthetic, as they've decided to name it, which is like, it feels like a very grounded version of space exploration and sci-fi compared to some other stuff. Like, let's look at Mass Effect for a comparison. Very different game series, but like similar kind of thing. Oh, humanity eventually got technology to explore the stars. And like, you've got like technology in some ways that's almost indistinguishable from magic. And you've got like alien, sentient, sapient alien races everywhere. There's like all this really different, like each planet has its own like culture and, really diverse stuff like that. Whereas in this, it really feels like it's just people eventually got the technology to go out into space, and like it feels familiar. It's just human beings like us, basically, as we are now, not even necessarily like super coming together, but just like going out into the cosmos. And like it's like seeing the early stages of that still, in a way, where it's like, oh, there's only a couple of big cities, a couple of big inhabited planets, and everything else is still like unexplored. It's kind of
and there's like, this like central government, and it's like, are they good, are they bad? Some people like hate them, some people think they're good. Like there's comfort in being like inside of those walls, but like other people don't want to be locked in like that. It is cool. They definitely put a lot of thought into it, which I appreciate. And like you said, it's almost like you're going to like different parts of the world or different parts of the country as it is today. You go to like you go to like the cowboy planet, like the cowboy town on like X planet, or like there's like a a neon city, or or like a capital city in New Atlantis. Like it's neat how they do all this.
It's almost like low fantasy sci-fi in a way, if that makes sense, where it's not like, it's like Game of Thrones versus like super, sword and sorcery wizards kind of thing, where it's like, this is, our understanding of like what we imagine early space travel would probably be, just like a few steps forward. Which is cool.
And like you pointed out, to everybody should kind of be like stick to the main mission up through into the unknown. And when you do that, it unlocks a mechanic that I really wasn't expecting.
I was not either. I was very pleasantly surprised by that.
We won't spoil it this week because it's like so new, but I just wasn't expecting that mechanic to unlock. And I'm surprised that it didn't get spoiled for me or for like anyone. Like I've been watching a lot of people play Starfield on Twitch and stuff, and I haven't seen anyone utilize that mechanic at all. So I don't know how that somehow. I think a lot of people probably spent the first week just doing didn't even get up to that mission yet.
100%. I had that same thought. I'm on my Steam achievements right now.
It had 20% of people, right?
Literally, the
and it's the third mission.
That is like the third mission into the main story has on Steam right now a 19.5% completion rate, which is so funny.
I think that went down from yesterday. I think when I did it yesterday, it was like 19.9.
Yeah, like that, again, not to spoil anything just yet, but like that unlocks a pretty interesting mechanic system and kind of like opens up maybe where some of the story is going to go and like some very interesting things. And it is really funny to me that, because I understand, like, for so many people, like I said before, a lot of folks, especially people familiar with Bethesda games, are like, I'll get to the main story eventually. I'm going to go explore. So it's wild that you could do like 100 hours of this game and not do a mission that really opens up a lot of stuff. But I think that goes into some of the critiques that people had about the beginning of the game, especially, which I would agree with. Like, it has kind of one of their weaker intros, I think, personally. Just like it takes a little bit to kind of get into it, and then some stuff happens really fast, and then I think you kind of have to. I almost feel like there should be more encouragement to just be like, go a little bit further. Like, this is really important, and then you can go hog wild and explore.
Yeah,
I understand.
Well, especially because the way that the side quests work too is like you pick up side quests from overhearing NPCs.
Oh yeah.
So, and I mentioned this to you, like a lot of times, because you're just sprinting through crowds, you never even hear the dialogue. You'll hear like the first word as you're passing by, but you're so far after that the volume is like drowned out. Like you can't hear them anymore. And then all of a sudden it'll just be like, go check on Johnny down at the shop. And it's like, what? Who the fuck is that?
That would be so often. Someone will be like, well, Victor. And then it's like, talk to Victor.
Yeah.
I don't know who the hell that is.
It's like, join the Peace Corps by talking to enlister Victor. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What the hell is the Peace Corps?
There's one right at the beginning of New Atlantis that most people will probably get, where you can like apply for a job at one of like the big I think like tech manufacturers. I don't even know where the hell I got it. I was just walking around and it was like I
have to do that.
Like that. It was like,
I saw someone on Twitch playing that like that whole arc, and it's like it's the funniest like corporate boardroom drama. It looks awesome. I can't wait to do that.
I submitted my application, so
I have to do that. I have to
go to I think it's in Neon City, where you like go for an interview.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
So I submitted it. It was like, how much experience, like, what do you have, any secretarial experience? I was like, no.
I'm very engaged with exploration. I'm very engaged with my skill points as well, because I feel like they did a very good job of making all of the traits, all of the skills you can spec into feeling valuable. Like not all of them, but a lot of them, right? Like deception versus negotiation, persuasion, and then there's a whole suite of tech, like ship flying enhancements. One of the first things I did was I upgraded my lock picking ability. So I started as a bounty hunter, so I already had the base level, and now I have the second level, so I can do like everything up till master locks, I think. And it's like I've unlocked so many like really hard to crack safes because I invested my skill points in those, which just sounds like every other game, but it's like I did that at the sake of investing into like persuasion more or some kind of like deception skill or something, or some kind of like 10% more oxygen, or when you're running, and so everything, the skill point economy feels very, very valuable, and skill points feel very rewarding.
Yeah, I agree. It's fun to kind of, I think, like, eventually, with no level cap, like if you keep playing, you'll get most things probably, but it's fun to kind of have that sense of investing in something early that like you really specifically want to go for. Like I picked a class that starts with persuasion, and now I've got it at level 2, and like you were saying, ways to approach quests and stuff. Like I've completely avoided like multiple scenarios by just talking my way out of it, which is a staple for a lot of RPGs like this, but it's always satisfying to do. It's fun to feel like non-combat stuff is valuable, and you can get some interesting things. Like I finished up a quest, came outside of an area, and then there was like a bandit leader who's basically like either pay up or we're gonna fight, and I was just like whoa let's think about this. And I talked my way out of that, and then like animals attacked, and then I wound up helping them, and then she paid me for helping them.
That's awesome.
So instead of fighting like this bandit leader, I wound up
yes, I did that as well. And then like they get ambushed at the very end, and they're like, you better help us now.
Yeah. And then you talk to her, and she's like, all right, fine, and gives you some cash. And it's like, it's in some ways like the illusion of choice, but it's a good illusion, so I'll take it.
It's kind of an illusion of choice, but also the persuasion system is pretty strict. Like there's you have a very, or at least, and again, this is because we're talking about the differences in specking, but like I fail a lot of persuasion checks. You know,
they're a little spicy.
It's funny because Baldur's Gate is like this. It's the dice is still being rolled under the hood.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. There's no animation for it, but I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
every game needs dice, but like actual dice. I want to see dice on every single game.
That's so funny. I feel. Would you have ever said that 2 months ago before playing Baldur's Gate?
Well, no. The thing about it is like I always was interested in Dungeons and Dragons because I have a. Like if I ever got into gambling, it'd probably be really bad, right? Like I have like I love chance games. Like I've always loved chance games. Probability games, like brain games, like mix and match, like dice, like all of that. So I've always wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons because I know it's so heavily relies around getting like RNG, RNG rolls.
Yeah, taking a chance.
But it's kind of intimidating to do it off the jump. So Baldur's Gate was a great way to like alleviate a lot of those intimidating factors and just kind of jump in and roll the dice, literally roll the dice.
Yeah, literally give it a whirl. I got to get back to it. I
got to get back to it too.
Baldur's Gate so much. I left off at a very spicy point, and like I was gonna go back in, like I said, and then I picked up Starfield and was like, oops. But
it's tough, and I'm really enjoying Baldur's Gate too. I'm very excited to finish it. It is tough because like it's not like I don't feel like I haven't gotten like a sense of fulfillment with the game at 80 hours. I'm like I feel like I've done so much, and I'm not even like exhausted yet, but I'm not like in a rush. I'm not like in a rush to like beeline another 80 hours. You know what I mean? Like I'm savoring it up, and I don't mind. This was actually the way I was expecting to play Baldur's Gate in the beginning, and it's kind of the way I think I'm going to play Starfield, where I'm going to kind of jump in and out.
Yeah,
and I'll probably do like chunks where I do like 20 to 30 hours, and then like step back and I'll finish Day of the Diver, or Mario Wonder, like and then I'll go back and I'll finish it out, or Armored Core, something where it's like boom boom shoot brain off. I'll go back, but. So I don't, it's nothing to do with Baldur's Gate quality or at all, but like doing 80 hours and then me being like, let me sell some sushi in Day of the Diver. Like, that it's the perfect like palate cleanse break. It's great. I'm enjoying, I feel like I have a very good game juggle going on right now.
Yeah. I think we've seen a lot of stuff come. I think there's some games that just like have, when there's like a lot of content and it all feels rewarding to do in its own way, I feel like it kind of lends itself well to that pick up and put down kind of thing. Whereas like, if you're playing a super linear, like, 10-hour story game, like you might as well just see it through, because if you put that down and pick it back up, the pacing might get a little weird, or you not really remember where you were, and there isn't really any reason not to. Whereas like you said, with something like Baldur's Gate, Starfield with a million freaking systems to do, you can make a little progress, put it down, come back to it, and be like, oh, it feels like each bite-sized bit is kind of its own little like game experience. Which
and Baldur's Gate is literally an axe, so it's like I'm super stoked to finish it. And then since I've played it, they've done like 6 hot patches, so
Yeah,
and
there's
like
another
2 big
one
fixes. I
coming,
haven't
which
played in
I'm
like 2-3
excited for.
weeks. So
It's gotten
I'm
better as
excited to
it's
go
gone on.
back in with those fixes. Apparently like Act 3 needed some of that anyway, so hopefully I get the best version of it. John Woo in chat said, I put points into everything that helps me murder things, talking about Starfield's
Yeah, dude, the
skill point
combat.
system.
I didn't realize
I've done
that.
very little combat skill points yet, but only because I feel like I'm still murking everything. Like I somewhere found this insane shotgun. I found like a dual pump. It's called an Old Earth shotgun. It's like it's a epic level gun. And I am just massacring everybody. Like massacring everyone. It's insane. Also, shout out Todd Howard for making ammo 0 mass. It takes up 0% of your.
Thank God, I have like 8,000 bullets in my inventory.
Yeah, I know. Great. Same, but it's like if that would have been so obnoxious.
Yeah,
I guarantee you they had it at that it did take up mass, and at least when they started development, and they probably like once it hit playtest, they were probably like, okay, no, it's got to go.
This sucks ass. Yeah. He was like, get rid of the bullet weight. I don't know. That kind of not really what he sounds like, but
why didn't you optimize for mass and Starfield? We did. Maybe you just need to update your backpacks.
Maybe you need to update your cargo bay.
Which actually, perfect time, because we'll talk about how Todd Howard was also on, I guess he was on Bloomberg with Phil Spencer, but they asked him why does it feel like the game's not optimized for PC? Here, so this is from VG247. The article says, think Starfield isn't optimized for your PC. Todd Howard says, you may need to upgrade your rig. Bethesda executive producer and Starfield game director Todd Howard had some choice words to say when asked why the game hasn't been optimized for PC. Speaking to Bloomberg alongside Xbox head Phil Spencer, Howard was asked a question provided by the outlet's audience: why did you not optimize the game for PC? After a brief pause caused by that classic on-air interview delay. Oh, that's so funny. I just
dead air.
Yeah, just dead air for a second. Howard quite simply responded, we did. It's running great. It is a next-gen PC game. We really do push the technology, so you may need to upgrade your PC for this game. But it's got a lot of great stuff going on in it, and the fans are responding awesome. This is the most like Trumpian quote. Like those Trumpian. I kind of want to read it as Trump. We did. It's running great. It's a next-gen PC game. We really do push the benefits of technology, folks.
We really do, folks.
So you may need to upgrade your PC for this game. It's got a lot of great stuff going on in it. The fans are responding awesome.
This whole thing is so silly because, like, what a non-answer from Todd, for starters, but also, like, it was just a stupid question to even ask because, like, what is he going to say?
Yeah, what is he going to say? Like, my God, I knew we forgot to do something.
Oh my God. Yeah,
I knew we forgot to do something.
Because like they could have phrased that a lot of different ways. Like, people are feel like they're experiencing less performance than their hardware, there's a lot of better ways to put it, but just basically saying like, why did you not do this? He's not going to be like, oh yeah, like you're right, we didn't.
I feel like this is also like, whoever these Bloomberg people are probably don't understand the like weight of this question.
Yeah.
They probably don't understand like how it actually it's a little disrespectful. To ask such a blanketed question.
Yeah.
And not that Todd Howard's answer wasn't disrespectful either.
Yeah, I think it was a stupid moment for everybody.
I think he answered with the same level that the question was asked.
Yeah, I think he met the energy of the question, I think.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of smarter people than me who are doing a lot of tests right now. The folks from Digital Foundry, a lot of great YouTube channels and tech folks. The PC version's in a weird place. It runs great on some hardware, runs really poorly on some hardware that should be running it a lot better. Overall, it is a very stable release. Very minimal bugs, few crashes personally for me. And there are ways to kind of tweak it, but there are issues with just optimization for the CPU, for especially NVIDIA cards, for the graphics cards, like not utilizing them properly. That could be a driver issue from NVIDIA. But then there's things like, not putting in DLSS, not putting in XeSS, other upscaling things. It's like, it's just kind of there is work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done in terms of optimization for more hardware configurations. And everybody knows that. So him saying like, we did optimize it, upgrade your PC, is like, Todd, that's for what the game is doing and how it looks. I think it looks amazing, but it's like, it's not doing anything revolutionary that like is as demanding as it is on a lot of hardware. So I hope that they do update it. We'll see. Bethesda has an interesting track record for that kind of thing. They definitely add content, but in terms of like adding features and optimization, that's kind of up in the air. But his non-answer does not give me a ton of hope for like rapid fire updates. But they leave things up to the modders a lot, which can be good, but I'm 99% sure that when they are in the room developing these games, there's multiple moments where they'll say, leave that to the modders. I would be shocked if they didn't. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Leave it to the modders. I mean, how much support did the Fallout games get and Skyrim? Because I am curious to see, like, the only thing, the biggest thing that worries me about Todd's response is that basically he's saying it sounds like he's not worried about how the game runs now. Yeah. And the game definitely, like you said, it needs some work.
It needs passes, it needs people to go over and test it out. It just feels like, let's leave any kind of malicious sponsorship stuff out of the question for right now. It just feels like they didn't test it on enough hardware and like optimize it for specific configurations, which would be great if they did that. But as a whole, it kind of feels like, not surprisingly, they really developed it for Xbox consoles. So if you're trying to get your PC version to kind of match the console fidelity and performance, that feels like it actually makes sense. Like the game seems to run and function as expected with like a 30 FPS cap, medium to high settings. Like that feels like, oh, this is the game. And then anytime you try to go beyond that, then things start getting weird. There's like weird diminishing returns on the settings, on the performance. So it just kind of feels like they went, oh, that's funny. There's in that thumbnail. I think I know that guy. That's crazy.
Wait, which guy?
Someone I think I went to college with, in the thumbnail on this website there. See
which one?
On the bottom right.
On the bottom right. This guy.
No, never mind. Now that you zoomed in, I don't know that man. I don't know that man at all.
Best games ever.
Yeah, it feels like they made the console version and then used that as the base, and Todd's statement makes it feel like their professional opinion is like, well, it is optimized if you're running it at 30 FPS with Xbox settings, and anything beyond that you got to upgrade your PC. Which is PC games deserve better than that. We have a lot of issues with optimization and missing settings in a lot of AAA games these days, and it's like, if you're selling a game for full price, man, on a platform, like you got to take advantage of that platform and give the people who are paying for it the things that they expect, the accessibility options, more graphics options, etc.
Yeah, 100%.
I just handle it.
Yeah, even in the article, and John Woo in chat just mentioned, the modders already added DLSS, which is funny.
Of the game coming out.
Within hours. Apparently, it helps a lot. Yeah. But then there's that whole storyline of apparently they put like a paywall behind it, which is hilarious. But then what else do we have here? I agree. I just think there's like you said, there's work to be done. It sounds like I'm a little worried that they're not super concerned with enhancing it. I do think like there is maybe a crowd of people who are still running off those 1060s, 2070s that
the 1660 Ti's.
I think maybe it is time to start thinking about bumping your way up. The 30 series is becoming like more and more affordable by the day. And I think they're massive jumps upwards. Sometimes I guess, older builds, maybe sometimes you have to upgrade more things because of that, but so it ends up becoming a whole thing. But I do think that maybe if you're running a 10 series or a 20 series, that might be starting to hit an age where you should be using the Nintendo Switch as your baseline. If that needs to be upgraded, maybe your GPU does as well. If they're released around the same year, might be time to start thinking about it.
I want to do a big upgrade. I'm thinking about it. I gotta get a new CPU, and then if I'm getting a new CPU, I might as well get a new GPU. And if I'm getting a new GPU, I might as well get new RAM.
Dude, you just got your 3060 last year.
Yeah, my 3060 Ti, dude. It's, I don't know. I need that 4080. I'm looking at it. I'm actually looking at it. I might get a 4080.
How much is a 4080 running for?
Like $1,100.
Oh, really? That's actually a lot.
Nvidia's over it. They're great cards, some of them, but they're just so overpriced for what they are. But I might be part of the problem and just pay for it.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Switch, actually, we got a little Switch action going on this week, which is really exciting. And some really, really exciting news. Sources: Nintendo showed Switch 2 demos at Gamescom. The company is understood to have held private tech demos ahead of the expected 2024 launch. Another article from Video Games Chronicle. Nintendo showed off tech demos for its Nintendo Switch successor behind closed doors at Gamescom. It's understood. One Switch 2 demo is understood to have been an improved version of the Switch launch title Breath of the Wild, running at higher frame rate and resolution than the original game did on hardware targeting the new console specs. There are no suggestion the game will actually be re-released. Another VGC source claimed that Nintendo showcased Epic's impressive The Matrix Awakens Unreal 5 engine tech demo, originally released to showcase the power of the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X in 2021, running on target specs for its next console. The demo is said to have been running using NVIDIA's DLSS upscaling technology with advanced ray tracing enabled and visuals comparable to Sony's and Microsoft's current next-gen consoles. However, it should be noted that this does not mean the Switch successor will sport raw power anywhere near that of the PS5 or Xbox Series X, which aren't portable devices. DLSS, deep learning super sampling, is a feature exclusive to NVIDIA graphics cards. Blah, 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 blah. We don't have to go into what DLSS is right now. But look, these are all rumors, but if any of this is true, that is actually insane.
Yeah.
To think of a handheld with that kind of quality is nuts.
I believe this, honestly, at this point, because Eurogamer is pretty damn reliable. The people who did corroborate this are all relatively trustworthy people. And it fits in with the timeline that we've kind of been led to believe for them coming out with something new. So yeah. I choose to believe this, and it might sound insane to some people, like a Nintendo console with that much power, but they're in a really unique situation as the only console on the market using NVIDIA chips. And they have a good working relationship with them. NVIDIA has really, really incredible software when it comes to that kind of upscaling. And as someone who has an NVIDIA card on my PC and uses DLSS pretty much every time it's an option, it's really freaking good. You can get 4K reconstruction from very low resolutions. And if they've got an updated, NVIDIA Tegra chip or something like that, maybe some next gen thing they've been R&Ding for a while,
right?
That makes use of current, especially if they have DLSS 3.5 frame generation, some of these technologies, you could basically have a game running at 900p that can be upscaled to a 4K television.
Crazy.
It might have some artifacting. There can be some issues with that, but fundamentally, the option of that, especially if they do the Switch kind of thing again, where you can handheld dock it, that makes sense to me. And it doesn't need to be the most powerful. I think that what they're aiming for is showing that, modern engines like the Unreal Engine 5 can run on this hardware. And that's huge for third-party games because, again, with that upscaling, Unreal Engine 5, it doesn't need to, be running at like native 4K. Basically, you can say like, get your Unreal Engine 5 game running at like 720p on
Yeah.
our chip, and we can do the upscaling. We can work on the performance and stuff like that, which opens up so many doors. This was rumored and theorized to be the direction they would take, and it sounds like they're doing it. And I think it's a phenomenal choice, if so.
I think the most exciting thing to me here is that, and I actually don't know if this is true. Maybe you'll know, but this would be the first main console to really use DLSS as a primary.
It would be
as a primary resolution standard, which is like really crazy when you think about it, because as advanced as that technology has been getting, it has not had a mainstay hook to like enter a main consumer market outside of PC.
Yeah.
Which I have to imagine the console market probably combined blows the PC market out of the water. If I had to guess.
Yeah, I would say so.
So having an entry point into consoles like this, especially for a handheld device, would not only be a huge moment for Nintendo, but for Nvidia and even for FSR, which I think Tears of the Kingdom specifically does utilize in some way. But to have to basically say, hey, look, like the core development entry point of the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be the utilizing DLSS to play COD on our systems, to play Final Fantasy VII Remake, like the bigger, heavier titles. It's going to open the doors. It could make them like the best console in the market by like a long shot.
It does. It opens a ton of doors just for performance, for modern engines. The other consoles use AMD chipsets, and they make use of FSR for upscaling, which is an open standard, but it has always been behind DLSS in terms of quality. And I hate any kind of monopoly and proprietary stuff. Like, I don't like NVIDIA's business practices, but their software, I have to admit, is incredible. DLSS has always blown FSR out of the water in terms of just quality of the reconstruction. And it pushes FSR and AMD forward as well. So it'll be real competition there to see like, the other consoles with AMD chips using modern FSR upscaling techniques, and then seeing what the Switch and Nintendo could pull off. This is so wild to me, because it's like, oh my God, Nintendo actually making like maybe really smart, forward thinking, like
cutting
modern
edge
technological decisions. That is like, this is the company that used, like 30-year-old wireless infrastructure for their games and systems for, like forever.
Right.
It's
until like 5 years ago, if that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see them potentially really entering the playing field technically, as well as just, artistically and design wise.
And it's hopefully it doesn't impact anything else, because I think one of the things that Nintendo's always has been forced into creativity, because that has been the driving factor of their uniqueness. That is why they are not, why Xbox does and PlayStation doesn't even really consider Nintendo as like a competitor, because they have had a suite of games, a suite of IP that's entirely untouchable to them and entirely segregated from the rest of the console market. This would change that massively. This immediately would make them a competitor to both of those consoles, because we would see a lot of those third-party titles getting put onto the Switch, onto the Switch 2. So it really opens things up. And I also wonder how much of this was known to Mr. Bobby, when he made all those statements in court a month or two ago about the Switch running Call of Duty running on the Switch, and them signing that deal to run Call of Duty on the Switch. Because now it's starting to make a lot more sense.
Yeah, to get those deals in motion, knowing that Nintendo, while not the most powerful hardware, will have something coming that can effectively play modern games and modern engines. Maybe not with parity to the PS5 and Xbox Series X, but I mean, if they could even do like an Xbox Series S in a handheld format, that would be pretty remarkable. So, because that can get modern games. It's a pain in the butt for developers sometimes, but
yeah,
it can get the modern games. I think this is thrilling. I'm just imagining like, what a launch title would be with this technology to take advantage of it. And I'm picturing like Metroid Prime 4 with, like Unreal Engine 5 or something ridiculous,
oh my
like
God,
with
please.
DLSS upscaling. Like you could have a really visually and technically impressive game on a Nintendo console. That hasn't happened since the GameCube.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's like 20 years
awesome.
of Nintendo being, not the underdog, but like the underperformer tech wise, and the kind of compromises that have to be made there. So
I'm very excited to see what the launch title is. I saw an article, or like a rumor article today, that it could be, Metroid Prime 4, which would be sick. I don't know, like if that's,
they would need a Mario game or something.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
Just for
but even then, like launching a Mario with a Zelda is very different than launching a Mario with a Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah,
that's gonna bring in a lot less sales than Zelda. So I kind of think like maybe Metroid Prime 4 is in like a place where like it'll be like a third launch title, but like I do think that you'll need a Mario, you'll need something else that is almost as big, maybe 70% as big. Don't think it's going to be a Zelda, but I don't think Metroid Prime is enough on its own.
F-Zero, baby, it's back.
There's a big F-Zero rumor going around right now.
I saw that too. Oh God, dude, hype! I want to slam my table, but my microphone will explode. So
apparently, there's a direct like incoming. That's like apparently there's a direct on the way, and it might have some F-Zero.
Oh boy!
But I've also never seen more fake leaks from anything more than Nintendo ever.
I know anything with like Nintendo and the Switch and stuff, it just gets the rumor mill firing. I think they could make a big killing with this too, just by selling the concept of backwards compatibility, which I think is big. Specifically, if this Breath of the Wild tech demo is to be believed, like all of the big Switch games, maybe all of them, maybe a handful, like will play and look even better. So like you can use your existing library. That would be very un-Nintendo like to not resell them, but that would be a cool.
I want to buy them again.
$70 for all of them this time.
I want to buy them all again, please.
Yeah. But like having that, they need to do backwards compatibility, man. I would be so pissed off if they didn't, because like that would be the perfect all of the Switch library souped up versions on this theoretically powerful handheld. Like ooh.
Yeah, I think they have to.
Yeah.
But
because they would split the market too much if they didn't.
Yeah, and I think they have to, and it's just if all the rumors are true about the power of this and it being handheld with that kind of power, this is going to be insane. This is really going to be nuts. This might be the best handheld on the market. Out of everything, even all the handheld PCs, like this is crazy. This is really cool, because I imagine the form factor will be substantially smaller than all the handheld PCs.
I mean, they prioritize durability and form factor so strongly. Like the Switch, even the launch Switch, like I've had that thing since 2017. Like I haven't maybe I have dropped it, but I've thrown it in my bag. I've played pretty hard with it and works perfectly fine. I don't know if my Steam Deck would survive a drop.
Yeah,
but Nintendo does, because they put the
dude. I'm thinking about selling my Steam Deck, because I don't use it like at all. I don't use it at all.
I'm playing Starfield on it right now. That's great.
Yeah. The thing that I found is I'm very, very bad about getting up from the computer at night and like going into my bed and picking something up on the Steam Deck. Like I'm just like, I just play it sitting down until I like can't stay awake anymore. That's
what I do, but I do it on my Steam Deck. I turn on the warm filter on the screen like all the way, so I'm basically staring at like pumpkin colored video games, and I'm out like a light. It's great.
Out like a light. Yeah, no, I feel that. But Speaking of Zelda and launch titles, so
Ooh, good transitions.
this is another one here. More VGC. It's a Video Games Chronicle week. But Zelda producer says there's no plans for Tears of the Kingdom DLC.
Pour one out, everybody who is
pour one out.
Breath.
I wonder. I don't know if this one means like it won't happen. I'm very surprised to hear this because the game was super successful, super good, and I don't know. It just seemed like kind of a low hanging fruit. Yeah. I think let's see what they said here. Speaking to Famitsu Anuma, said there are no plans to release additional content for the game on this time because he feels that the team did everything it could in terms of gameplay opportunities. Hey, I love that. Yeah. At this time, we are not planning to release additional content. We feel like we have already fully explored and exhausted the gameplay possibilities in this world. Yeah, literally across 2 games. Yeah, you did. Initially, the reason we decided to develop a sequel was because we believed there was still value in experiencing new gameplay within that particular Hyrule. In the future, we find a compelling reason we may revisit that world once again, whether it's another sequel or an entirely new title. I believe the next game will offer a completely new experience. I hope you look forward to it. It's so funny how any person who speaks on Nintendo's behalf ends their sentences like Miyamoto in a direct.
Yeah.
I always. And now we hope you enjoy this.
Yeah, please understand. I hope you'll look forward to it. Like, I wonder if that's just like a translation of like certain Japanese phrases that are common.
Yeah, that could be true.
Or it could just be Nintendo being Nintendo. They're just so polite.
Yeah, so it is kind of a surprise to me. I was really, really hoping. My biggest thing that was dashed and taken from me with Tears of the Kingdom is I was really, really hoping that we would get a Loftwing. That was like the one thing I wanted. And when that didn't happen in the game, I was like, okay. But my goalpost shifted to like, well, in Breath of the Wild, you get the motorcycle DLC. Maybe we'll get a Loftwing DLC, and that'll be like our new mount. You know, our new mount will be like the Loftwing, and we can soar between the Sky Islands. Yeah, just like in Skyward Sword. And then now we get this news. So now I'm just a hollow husk. I'm shattered. Life has no meaning.
I'm done with Nintendo. I'm breaking my Switch in half.
But this quote's actually really interesting because it not only does it kind of gives insight into their DLC plans, they kind of gave more insight than I would have expected about what they're thinking in terms of the next game.
Yeah,
it sounds like they're kind of done with this version of Hyrule.
Yeah, I mean, something about Nintendo that's become more clear as the decades have gone on, like, love it or hate it, they do always reinvent things. Sometimes that can be really frustrating because you're like, I just want another game exactly like this, but just, new because it was great. But then it's like, nope, here's Kirby Tilt and Tumble, or like, here's something stupid, which isn't always a hit, but they do reinvent things. Like even these Zelda games were such a big departure from the previous ones in a lot of ways, broke the formula, mixed it around, open world. So they always do it. It can be frustrating again when there's something you really liked and you might not get one like that again for 20 years until they cycle back around to it.
Yeah.
But at first I was surprised by this, but it does make sense because like the game as a whole kind of feels like a big DLC for Breath of the Wild in a way.
Yeah, no, well, originally this was the DLC.
Yeah.
And then they said, actually, we're just going to make it into a full game.
Yeah.
So it seems like they've done that, and now they truly feel like there's nothing left to give in this iteration of
I think they
Zelda.
Squeezed all the blood from the rock, so to speak, because like this was delayed a couple of times. They took all that time to polish it. I feel like they probably were like, all right, that's everything we feel like we can do. Anything else would be like, I don't know, maybe new story content or something like that, but we'll save that for whatever the next thing is.
And they still haven't said where this like sits in the timeline. I'm very interested. So like, so there's a couple things. I wonder. I feel like in a way, might be a missed opportunity for them not to just do a straight out kind of trilogy of these. And I don't mean that like that it has to take place in the same Hyrule again, same map, same open world. But I do wonder if there's like one more entry point of connectivity for the story.
Yeah.
But that's also something that they've never been concerned about with Zelda. So if that they could easily just leave it there forever.
I don't think they give a single shit.
Yeah.
I don't think even Aonuma knows what the timeline is. I don't think he cares.
To me, the way the story plays out between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, to me it very much interprets as like if the Legend of Zelda ever came to an ending, like a true ending, this would be at the end of the time, like the very end of all of the timelines. This would be the ending. This is like the Ninja Turtles Last Ronin. This is like the Dark Knight Returns. Like this is a kind of a one-off outside of all the timelines, but would be the end. It would be the ending, you know? Mm-hmm. That's how it felt to me. And I don't know if that doesn't play for a lot of other people, if it's like entirely off the mark, but it just felt so grandiose and so accumulating of its entire history of the franchise that it kind of just felt that way to me, where it's like, you know, it just,
I mean, it also has like the tone in both games kind of like you're in a ruined world in some ways, you know, like the best days are in the past and now you're kind of like rebuilding and starting fresh with some things.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of has
and you're
that
like
tone, you know,
tens of thousands of years after Skyward Sword, and you still have what's her name, Faye?
Oh yeah, Fia or
Fia. You still have Fia like singing to you in the sword, like she's still there. You know, Link has been like asleep for like 100 years. It just feels so connective in all these small ways that it, like, I don't know, it just felt like it would be the would-be ending of The Legend of Zelda if there ever was one.
Yeah. Now we got to go back to the beginning again.
Yeah, start over. Hit the reset button.
Yeah, throw the other. There's already like 3 alternate timelines in Zelda. Just make another one.
I know. Why not just make a 4th? Easy.
Yeah, make a 4th timeline. Who cares? There's infinite Links, infinite Zeldas.
What else we got? It's funny. We ended up talking so much about Starfield, we like barely talked about any of the things that we pulled.
Hey man, that's the Bethesda effect, baby.
Bethesda effect.
This is what Todd wanted. Todd's breathing down our necks right now. He's actually in both of our rooms off camera.
Let's talk about a smaller developer. We'll talk about a smaller developer and then one last big developer. So another VGC article. Dre is becoming an animated movie billed as the first Hope Punk film. See you later. NASA Punk out. Hope Punk in. You're out. Annapurna Pictures is making an animated movie based on its popular game Stray. The media company animation division will be handling production on the film, which will tell the story of the cat-based adventure game. Annapurna's co-head of animation, Robert Baird, told Entertainment Weekly that he's focusing on the term Hope Punk, which was originally conceived by the game's developer Blue 12. I love that term, Hope Punk, Baird said. I think if we were going to do this adaptation justice, this is going to be the first and greatest Hope Punk movie that's ever been made. This is a game that's all about what makes us human, and there are no humans in it. It's a buddy comedy about a cat and a robot, and there's so much hilarious dynamic. So there's comedy inherent in this, but there's not one human being in this whole movie. Yeah, I mean, I love this game. I played this game on stream. I platinumed on stream. I had to do the speed run. I don't think you ever finished it, right? But I loved it.
Finish it.
You should bang it out because it's really charming, and it's like it's a very simple game.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple game. One of the best things about it is they just kind of like released a trailer for it. They never like over promised anything or like said really what it would be. They're just like, yeah, you're gonna be a cat. It ended up being like a little like 8-hour, 10-hour game where you just run around it like you're just a cat in this like post-apocalyptic robot world, and you make friends and you help people, and you know you try to get back to like the surface. But it was great. I loved it. So I did 2 playthroughs, and it was super charming. It was super, super, super charming. Annapurna, just like, they love to take creative swings, and they have big hits when they're
killing it.
Yeah, they're killing it. I know one of your favorites was What Remains of Edith Finch.
Oh, love that game.
Yeah.
Can't get enough of it. Yeah, they have such a smart approach to, I mean, this is a great example of that. Like when, they're publishing, sort of funding and publishing creative games, funding and publishing creative films, you build those relationships. And now in this case, they published Stray, and then they're like, well, why don't we also publish a movie about it? And it can all be kind of under the same umbrella of people who, clearly respect the art and what they were doing with it. So I think it's really smart. I don't think I've ever played or watched anything published or distributed by Annapurna that I didn't think was cool or enjoy to some degree.
They have awesome stuff. Also, I think 12 Minutes it is, the one with Willem Dafoe, also fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for that one. I'll definitely watch that movie. I think it's cool that they have this much synergy between media types.
I agree.
All right, and then last article for this week, one that I am very, very excited about. From The Verge. Final Fantasy 16 is officially getting a PC port and 2 DLC expansions.
Woo!
I'm really excited. I love this game. I just watched somebody streaming yesterday who finished the ending again. And it just kills me every time. And like watching people experience it for the first time, just full of tears in their eyes. Because by the time you get there, it's just everything's so impactful. It's such a journey. Yeah. Oh my God. It just, everything about it is so good. Story wise.
I think this game, I felt this while I was playing it, that like the best version of this game will be like the director's cut that's released, 2 years from now with all the content and like various adjustments and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I'm so curious to see how this fits into the story, how they, make it feel connected, or whether it'll feel like sort of its own standalone thing. Cause I think it's a game that has a lot of room for just, it's funny for something that like has so many freaking side quests, but like, more stuff to do in it. I think that they can really flesh it out with meaningful story beats.
And I would love to see like them take the formula, apply it to another game. I think a few of the biggest criticisms I had, one, like you said, the side quest pacing, but also like the environments only serve the purpose of existing for side quests, and like they didn't serve a purpose of like being an environment, if that makes sense. Like it's not like a total opposite of that, right? Like really good examples of it, like God of War Ragnarok. Like the environment serves as a purpose to be, every environment serves its own purpose to be an environment that you can explore and find things specific to where you are. Jedi Survivor does that also really well. This had a lot of wasted space, like big sprawling environments that were gorgeous beyond belief, but were like kind of barren, and like you didn't have a ton to find. The coolest thing I found in there was near one of the chronolith trials that are kind of hidden. There's a case with Sephiroth's sword in it.
Oh, sick. Oh,
yeah.
I didn't find that.
It's pretty hidden.
I think because I gave up on looking for anything after my 50th chest that had like 25 gil in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that kind of stuff, right? It's like we talked about rewarding exploration that Starfield kind of has. You find one little piece of paper with coordinates, and now you have a legendary set of gear after killing a bunch of high level enemies in a hidden outpost, and you get a ship. And you're like that kind of those kind of things. Those exist in Survivor. Those things exist in God of War Ragnarok has a ton of them.
It's
you want your environments to, you want to encourage people to explore them thoroughly, because yes, they're gorgeous, but you have rewards for incentives for people to go and push through them.
Yeah, I wonder now. I literally just had this thought for the first time, like if this is kind of like a Yoshi P-ism kind of thing, because I've realized that he was such a big part in the production of this game and has been in charge of Final Fantasy 14 for so long. Final Fantasy 14 kind of has the same issue where like the zones as you go through them in each expansion are like big and beautiful, and like the quests in them are amazing, and then once you finish those, there's literally no reason to ever go back to them.
Yeah.
There's like nothing else to do in those zones once it's done. I feel like I kind of felt that with Final Fantasy 16. Like you go back for the side quests and stuff, but like, again, there's like, connective paths, or even some of these like big open areas that you, aside from looking at them, there's like no reason to ever go back them once you've walked through them. like,
Yeah,
once or twice.
100%. And you can make the argument that it's like, oh well, you have the hunts and stuff, but it's like even those are such quick, small, one-off interactions that each area has like 3 of.
Yeah.
And they just feel very procedural after the first few. And I like the fights, but the actual idea of the mechanic itself feels very procedural.
Yeah.
And then you look at something like Ragnarok, going back to that, where it's like you find these big stone orcs, and it's like, is that a boss? Is that an enemy? What is that? And it's like, you not only until way later you find out if you go back with a certain item, you can actually like break them out of their stone and like fight them. You know what I mean? It's like shit like that it keeps you going back to these environments, exploring them, like going through hidden chambers, using items that you find way later to go back and be like, oh yeah, I can use that grapple now to go to that thing I couldn't reach, blah, blah, blah. And almost always that experience felt very rewarding for your time for going back and doing that.
Yeah. Even in Final Fantasy 15, which I only played when it first came out, and I had mixed feelings on. Apparently it's much better now with the
Royale. I need to check edition.
It out. But even that, like in this big open world, had like dungeons and stuff, kind of like they mixed in kind of that classic Final Fantasy thing with the open world of like, you'd find like a dungeon, you'd go in and it would kind of have like a, A to B, you'd explore it and get like treasure or something like that felt kind of meaningful. I don't even necessarily want that in 16, but I don't know, just like more of it's one of those things where like, I'm not a developer. I know this stuff is very hard to do, but like something to make those areas feel more lived in, more like there's a reason to go back to them or to explore. That isn't just go and kill 3 guys because this dude in town told you to do it
because he's mad because he wants
he's really mad
gold back. But yeah, no, it's not a perfect game, but one of the most memorable stories I think I'll ever experience in a game through Final Fantasy 16. It really left me wanting just like more in the best way. So I'm really excited that we're going to get 2 DLCs.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where they go with them. If it'll take place after the events of the game, if there'll be prequels, maybe one of each. There's a lot of avenues they can go. There's a missing icon, obviously, which I think that's probably the most obvious pick for a DLC. Maybe obvious to the point where they won't even do it.
Yeah.
But I would love a Sid DLC to see more of him before the events of the game. Again, like a Leviathan DLC could be awesome.
Yeah. And they've got such a cool world. And it would
really
be
cool world.
Similar to Breath of the Wild, and why I'm so glad they did Tears of the Kingdom. It would be a shame, I think, for like Valisthea and all of the lore that they've built there to not be revisited in more ways. So I think growing this out is awesome. Give me a mobile game, give me an MMO, give me a book. I just want to learn more about it. So
yeah, I would love a book. I want to see the score live so bad.
Oh, the music was so good.
So badly. And I wonder if I'll get the PC port. We'll see. Probably not, because it's pumped in like 120 hours. But
I know. I don't think I'm going to revisit it for a while, but it was really funny that like with this announcement, they were like, and now we're going to start the PC version. It seemed like the way they had talked about it before seemed like there would have been more like co-development going on, but
it seemed like there was so much back and forth on like, did the game do well? Will it sell well? Is it selling well?
The numbers
it
were like
didn't.
Such a big article.
But like, I mean, I thought it sold well, especially when you look at it, people were like, wow, look how much less it sold than Tears of the Kingdom. But it's like, well, look at how many like Switches exist on the market versus PS5s. It's almost the exact same percentage of owners like bought Tears of the Kingdom for a Switch.
Yeah.
Who own a Switch and bought Tears of the Kingdom also own a PS5 and bought FF16. Those percentages are like almost identical.
Yeah.
So it sold well. Like it did sell well. I'm excited that this is kind of like validation that the game performed well. I'm excited that more people will get to experience it on PC. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag, and I think the reception of it will be a mixed bag. And I definitely think that the criticisms I have of the game will bother people more than they bother me, to the point where I could see them legitimately like not enjoying this game at all. But for me, the story was so good that it like overrode any criticism. And I think objectively the game is probably an 8.5, maybe an 8.8. Subjectively for me, it's like a straight up 9.5, like a 9.5, because I just enjoyed the story. Had me like in tears, you know, in stitches so badly.
I think one of the big issues that could be addressed with this PC version is the flow of combat and just how it feels. Because like I played it with in the resolution mode with the 30 FPS cap, because like I'll take that over the fluctuation of the performance mode.
Right.
So like, and I was fine with that, but it felt like, you know, it wanted to be this action game, and I was really struggling with just like wanting a bit more fluidity to it. So PC version where you can just brute force it and get like a full 60 FPS or maybe higher, like I think that'll really make the game sing a lot for more people.
I did it in the performance mode, so it was mostly like near 60 for me. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. But yeah,
all right, Yoshi P. Let's see.
Yoshi P.
I'll buy the game again.
I'm excited to see what like 17 is. I'm excited to see what Yoshi P's place in the franchise ends up being after this. Seems like he's like the golden boy right now.
Yeah,
you know, Dawn Trail next year for 14. You know, he's really good at this. He's really good at doing this. So
he's really good at this.
He is. I'm really stoked to see more you know, media from him that he's behind, because he's clearly super passionate about the franchise, clearly super passionate about its future.
Games.
Yeah. So, dude, I'm excited. But yeah, I think that's all we got this week. So, interesting week. Hopefully Switch 2 ends up being an absolute powerhouse.
Yeah, I hope it comes out tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, with Nintendo, it could. Like, you never know.
Yeah, on a Sunday in September.
Sunday in September, the Switch 2 came out for everyone. But all right. Thank you so much, everybody. We will be back hopefully on like Wednesday or Thursday if there's enough news, because we kind of did a very late episode. So hopefully some banger drama happens over the next couple of weeks or next couple of days.
Yeah. Activision buys Microsoft again. No, excuse me, the reverse. What if Activision bought Microsoft?
Who knows? Who knows at this point? Oh, like Succession, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't watched Succession? Everyone go watch Succession before the next episode so we can all talk about it together.
This is a Succession podcast now.
I would love that. It's so good. It's so enjoyable. We will be back probably like Wednesday or Thursday live on stream again. And yeah, you can find us on TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube at SRankPod. And you can always catch the episode live now here at twitch.tv/NoBananaSuits. And you can find Sean Welsh here at SeanWelshBrown on Twitter.
It's true, you can.
All right.
I do exist, in fact.
Indeed. All right. Thank you, sir. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening.
Alrighty.
Long live video games.
Long live.
See ya.
Later.